is a leadership that will enslave you. Any leadership that teaches you to depend upon another race is a leadership that will enslave you. They gave leadership to our foreparents, and that leadership made them slaves. But we have decided to find a leadership of our own.
You know. Not your average nigga, I'm a god out the hood. They can't downplay me. I came up, I'm elevated. I ain't gotta say too much for them to know I'm coming for what's mine. You know they see me in my presence, say they see how I'm coming. Young, but you not just gonna finesse me like you did my peoples. Them back when you said they was emancipated. This ain't that. Your head too big, you feeling yourself. The game wasn't fair, you had the advantage, we wasn't educated. I don't look at you people the same. Nah. Your worst nightmare, my skin tone about them chains. Yeah. Not no circus lion, son, I can't be tamed. You gon' have to kill me, pussy, Toby ain't my name. Y'all still want us think our history started when we were slaves? What? Come on now, talk about them pyramids we made. I was chosen by that man, you know y'all just been running game. The nerve of you acting like...
All right, family, peace and blessings. Welcome back to Shifting the Culture podcast. I am your host, Brother King Cam, and tonight we're going to be discussing exposing the war against Islam. Exposing the war against Islam. Now, I have done 1 or 2 episodes already on this, and I was actually referencing this book, but my idea now is to continue the theme, you know, until we actually get through the book fully. So that's the goal. And I got a couple of announcements before we actually get into the topic for tonight. So I need everybody who is tapped in right now to hit the comment section and let me know what city and state that you tuned in from. Let me know what city and state that you tuned in from. Shout out Facebook, shout out Instagram, shout out Twitter. Shout out to all the social media platforms that we're streaming on. YouTube, if you on YouTube, I need you to make sure that you hit that subscribe button, smash it, and also make sure you hit that bell so you can stay notified each and every time that we drop a video, as well as hit that thumbs up for a like. Facebook, I need you to share this out, family. I need you to comment. I need you to share. Also, follow us on the Facebook page. Instagram, you already know what it is. Make sure you tap in so that you can follow us as well. Twitter, let's retweet. So I was feeling a little bit under the weather because I was out of town and got into the water. I was at a lake house and got into the water. Water was super cold. And now I came back and I came back yesterday and, you know, nose been running, all that kind of stuff. So still trying to get it together. All right. Still trying to get it together. But yeah, so slide over to that comment section, family. Good evening. Good evening, family. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. So I actually doing this live off of the strength right now because I had an idea, and what my idea is to expand the Shifting the Culture podcast. How many times we actually are having these discussions. Hold on, y'all. So, how many times we having these discussions now? Usually, this was the schedule. Shifting the Culture podcast each and every Tuesday night, right? Let me show y'all. All right, so this was the original schedule right here. The flyer got this going. All right, so as y'all can see, this is it. Okay, Shifting the Culture podcast each and every Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, so that was the old schedule. But what I'm looking to do now, because of how the algorithm is and what I see other shows, other platforms doing, is they're getting more growth and consistency, but they're getting more growth based on the consistency because they're doing almost like daily shows. They're doing daily episodes, daily shows. So what we want to do is we want to increase our volume, family. We want to increase the volume. So what we want to do is, and I know, like I said, there's not a lot of us on tonight because this was not even like all the way in the plans yet. I was thinking about this earlier. I've thought about it last night and then earlier today, and I said, yo, I need to go live just so we can tap in, so we can discuss it. So the original schedule was Tuesday, 9 p.m. But what I want to do is I want to increase that Tuesdays, Thursdays, as well as Saturdays. And I'm going to change the time. So instead of 9 p.m., I think we're going to go at 8 p.m. Instead of 9 p.m., I think we're going to go 8 p.m. And we're going to do 3 times a week instead of once a week. And then also we're going to use our Thursdays, where we're going to be having a theme topic. Now, you know, we cover a lot of current events, different political and social events that happen in the community. That's going to be your Tuesdays and your Saturdays. But on Thursday, we're going to really theme up, focus in on a particular topic that we're going to be discussing centered around the teachings. So right now, I'm reading this book right here, Exposing the War Against Islam. So I'm trying to decide. I'm getting a poll from everybody on Instagram. Probably going to poll up on Twitter as well to see which book and which theme we're going to take up. Because it's going to be based on the book. But we're going to hit all the teachings. We want to talk about the teachings. So, you know, we want to get into Message to the Black Man. We want to get into Our Savior Has Arrived, Fall of America, chapter by chapter, you know, and give everybody an opportunity to read, be a part of that. And we want to build community around that. Okay. So that's ultimately the goal for Thursdays. All right. So I wanted to come on, make that announcement. So if this is something that you want to be a part of, because I want to start getting more interactive, then I definitely want you to make sure that you text the word STC Podcast to 888-294-2793. Again, that's the word STC Podcast, which stands for Shifting the Culture Podcast, to 888-294-2793. All right. So now that we done got that out the way, now we want to get into the main topic for the night, which is where we're going to be picking up from and exposing the war against Islam. So I was reading a couple of pages, and what I want to do is I just want to go, you know, really like page by page into some of the things that are mentioned here as the war against Islam has been something that's been overlooked. Most people even probably call it a conspiracy theory, the war against Islam. And I've done several episodes around exactly what Islam is and what Islam isn't. And I referenced this book because a lot of us had the mindset that Islam was Arab culture. We associated Islam and the Holy Quran with the fact that Prophet Muhammad was an Arab and that the Arabs practice Islam, and that you see a lot of black people in Arab gear participating and practicing Arab culture, and you automatically assume that Islam is Arab culture. That's not correct. And then you would believe that the scholars of Islam and those who supposed to be the most well versed in Islam would happen to be the Arabs. That's not true. Okay? So we bust all that up. So now we want to go through the steps and the phases in which Islam has actually been attacked and warred against. And I'm going to just pick up where I was reading, because it actually goes all the way back into where the war against Islam really started, which was, you know, thousands of years ago, where Islam was really targeted. And, you know, we go through some of that in the in this holy in the Holy Quran, in this book, right? So it's important. So I think we'll double back, but I want to focus really on the area that I was reading today and yesterday, which is the Nation of Islam in the belly of the beast. The Nation of Islam in the belly of the beast. All right? Because it's going to talk about how the Nation of Islam has been conspired against, how the Nation of Islam has been targeted, and why. because we are at a dispensation in time now that we can no longer continue to dismiss the attributes and the contributions of the Nation of Islam, the power in which the Nation of Islam has, and why it is so hated in America. Why it's so hated in America? Why is it targeted? So we're going to discuss that tonight, family. So what I need all of you all to do who are listening is I need you to retweet, share, share this out with the family so that we can get more people into our conversation tonight. All right. So, and I got my phone on do not disturb. So just want to check and make sure I ain't get no messages. All right. So look, here we go. The Nation of Islam in the belly of the beast. The Nation of Islam has persevered through some of the most relentless and malicious schemes perpetrated against Muslims in America. Not only are they pro-black in an anti-black society, they are Muslim under an Islamic phobic government, which has brought this group a double dose of hatred. Since the 1930 inception of the Nation of Islam in the West, this group has withstood the unwarranted slander, surveillance, and outright violent attacks stemming from the highest echelons of government. Yet they continue to rise and thrive amidst the world's superpower. Interesting about this group is that the foundational principles upon which the Nation of Islam are built are directly antithetical to the bloodstained practices upon which America operates. As Master Fard Muhammad, the founder of the Nation of Islam, began teaching and reforming black lives in the worst part of Detroit slums, his methods of reform collided with the operations of those who exploited black suffering. His work conflicted with influential groups like the Purple Gang, Jewish gangsters of the Bernstein family who profited heavily from criminal markets of liquor, drugs, and prostitution in the Detroit area. The Purple Gang was Detroit's most notorious organized crime gang in the 1920s and 30s, and the early work of the Nation of Islam threatened their operations because the Muslims took people away from crime, drugs, alcohol, and illicit activity. This alarmed those groups and businesses like Seagram's and other Jewish brewers who profited from the suffering of downtrodden blacks. Guided by Allah, God, whom the Nation of Islam proclaims, appeared in the person of Master Fard Muhammad. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad built a nation of fearless, disciplined, righteous men and women who challenged the core of Western world powers, white supremacy. The unique approach of this group differed from those of Noble Drew Ali and the Honorable Marcus Garvey in that the Nation of Islam operated from a whole new revelatory teaching that was virtually unbeknownst to the public. Elijah Muhammad demystified the reality of God and Satan by identifying both entities by name and face in a way that could be verified in the observable world. Unlike most religious traditions that simply believe in the prophetic scriptures, the Nation of Islam and its leadership represent the fulfillment of these prophecies as demonstrated in their teachings and their unprecedented activities amidst the opposing superpower. See, so when we stop right there and we get an understanding of what is taking place, you have to see and you have to recognize and you have to understand that the Nation of Islam is in direct opposition to the United States of America and its founding principles. Because the practices and principles which America was built on is anti-Islamic. Do you understand? Oppressing people, putting them into slavery, putting them into bondage, exploitation, colonialism, imperialism, all of those different things are anti-Islamic. So the Nation of Islam coming up in the West presents a problem to those who want to continue to exploit the poor and the ignorant. Okay, so let's go. Guided by Allah God, whom the Nation of Islam proclaims. Okay, we already read that part. Realizing that the truth the black Muslims represent signifies the end of America's satanic rule, learned leaders who study the scientific probabilities of scriptures have worked against the efforts of the Nation of Islam. As early as the 1930s, U.S. authorities arrested Master Father Muhammad on different occasions with no just cause. They arrested the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his followers in 1934 in Detroit, simply for forming an independent school, the University of Islam, where they instill black children with a proper knowledge and love for themselves. This contrasted with the anti-black indoctrination that was engulfed that has engulfed public education, which alerted the Detroit Police Department to raid the temple, arresting several believers. This later resulted in a court brawl that left some of their armed police officers injured, which further alarmed authorities that these black Muslims were unlike the Negroes they were accustomed to. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was arrested in Detroit in 1934 for the establishment of independent black schools, i.e. Muhammad University or the University of Islam. For doing what? What was they doing? Why? What warranted the arrest? Teaching children, black children specifically, a thorough knowledge of self and love for self that was non-existent in the school system at that time, and very still today, very poorly represented. I would put it like that. Poorly represented. I'm not gonna say it doesn't exist today, because of course with the advent of Black History Month and all of these different achievements black people are being recognized for, they try to highlight some of this stuff in the school system, but a lot of it's tokenism. A lot of it is symbols without substance. So we're not celebrating symbols without substance. But I'm not going to say that it's non-existent today, but definitely in 1934, it was non-existent. There was no self-love for black people. There was no knowledge of self for black people. It was strictly about our open enemies. Okay? So the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad was arrested in 1934 for establishing an independent black school. So I want you to just pay attention to the sacrifices that took place prior to you on social media who want to build an independent black school. Prior to you who are on social media who want to do all of these things that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad had put into motion. And there's nothing wrong with the new generation or the young generation taking those same philosophies and bringing them to reality again. But we just have to respect the shoulders in which we stand on. I'm going to say that again. We have to respect the shoulders in which we stand on. And too often, many of us are on social media disrespecting those who came before us, disrespecting the shoulders that we stand on. And you look real foolish. You look real foolish. Shout out to the family that's just coming in. We discussing exposing the war against Islam. And right now we dealing specifically with the Nation of Islam and the belly of the beast, and why the Nation of Islam has been targeted heavily in the United States of America by the U.S. government. All right, family. So I need all of you all on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. I need you to hit the comment section. What's going on, Brother Eric? That's my brother. He went viral over the weekend. Had to do what he had to do. But I need you to hit the comment section. Let me know what city and state that you tuned in, family. If you're watching, if you're listening, let me know what city and state that you tuned in from. So, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is arrested in Detroit for setting up and establishing a black school. And then there was a raid at the temple, that arrested several believers as well. So then this later resulted in a court brawl that left some of their armed police officers, which further alarmed authorities that these black Muslims were unlike the Negroes they were accustomed to. So they learned the Muslims was going to fight. They learned that you wasn't going to raid no temples. You wasn't going to be able to do what you was doing and be able to get away with it. Islam is not a turn the other cheek religion. So if you come against us with aggression, if you are aggressed upon, you are given the God-given right to fight with those that fight with us. So that's what happened to them. So they upset now. Not only are they upset because we teaching Islam, not only we upset because we teaching you knowledge of self and love for self. Now they upset because you done whooped them. That's now they upset because they're going to beat them. All right. So let's go. Let's keep it moving. In 1942, the FBI arrested Elijah Muhammad and many of his followers for teaching Islam during a time when America was prosecuting the war against Japan. Muhammad was arrested, interrogated, and put in prison for nearly 5 years without a trial. Interestingly, the FBI agents questioned him about the reality of the huge mother wheel and the smaller wheel-shaped planes now called UFOs that he introduced to the modern world. The worldwide UFO cover-up resulted from the truth the Nation of Islam brought to the world, which is why governments have classified this topic as above top secret. So if you are aware, Brother Illia Rashad has done extensive research and study on the UFO, quote unquote UFO phenomenon, or the UAP as they call them today, phenomenon. Our good brother, student minister Dr. Wesley Muhammad, just recently published a book called The Chariots of the Black Gods, right? Chariots of the Black Gods. So you want to check that work out as well. It's a scholarly work that is available now for purchase, and he's basically breaking down the fact that those who are piloting those quote unquote UFOs are not no aliens. They're not Marvin the Martian. Okay, not no aliens. They're not Marvin the Martian. They're not no little aliens or creatures from another planet that the media will have you to believe that they are. It's not the case. All right? That's not the case. I'm about to pull a picture up for you right here. Actually, because I don't want you to get it from there. I want you to get it from my brother Page. Hold on, we gotta drop the promo now. I want my brother to get all of the proceeds now. Okay? So you can go to now I can pull the picture up. Bang bang. So yeah, those little drop that off in there like that. Boom. Okay, so Chariot of the Black Gods right here. Make sure y'all check this out now. Chariots of the Black Gods, the UFO reality and the alien hoax. So those whom pilot these aircraft are not Marvin the Martian. They not E.T. They not none of that you grew up thinking it was. It's not Independence Day, even though Independence Day has some truth in it, because you notice the crafts in Independence Day were wheel-like shapes. The mother ship, then the ones that was down on the earth were all wheel-shaped. So they had some truth in them. But again, there was no aliens piloting these things. Dr. Wesley, in his book, is exposing and bringing to light that these craft are piloted by Asiatic black gods who pilot these aircraft. All right? So you want to go ahead and get that, and you can go to www.drwesley.info. www.drwesley.info. You can grab that. So we putting it all out there now, family. See, we're not leaving nothing. No stone unturned. And it was because of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad that UFOs became a mainstream mainstream idea or a talking point. They became movies because they was trying to figure out what was those crafts that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad was teaching about in the 1930s. So they questioned him and got the information from him, and this is how they started to develop their own ideas. And this would actually began their study and research into what those crafts were. And then also, as student minister brother Illia Rashad highlights, is why the documents have been classified and why the government has classified the topic as above top secret. Because they know who's piloting those aircrafts. They know who those aircraft superior flight machines, advanced technology, they know who they are backing. So rather than expose themselves, they're just going to classify the topic as above top secret. So that's a conversation for another day. But moving on, behind many of these attacks were members of the Jewish community who collaboratively spied on black organizations with the government. The ADL boasted that their files were better than those of the FBI. These Jews were behind the FBI raiding and arresting several members of the Nation of Islam in the 1940s based on skewed information. And this is from Princeton University Press in 2010, Troubling the Waters, Black Jewish Relations in the American Century. It reads, in 1942, ADL memorandum described an FBI-sponsored raid on Chicago's Temple of Islam, a quote-unquote Jap Negro organization, according to the ADL. The raid relied on the infiltration of the organization by a Negro employed by us and who was quite instrumental in assisting in the arrest of these individuals. Stop right there, because most of us are familiar with these Uncle Tom sellout Negroes who work on behalf of the enemy to try to stop our rise, who try to stop our liberation. And as is mentioned here, the raid that was performed on Chicago's Temple of Islam heavily relied on the infiltration of the organization by a Negro who was employed by them. This is what's going on, family. So this ain't nothing new. You being flipped, you being used as an agent to come in and infiltrate the organizations, it's nothing new. This been happening, family. This been happening, but we have to make sure that we are aware of the game, because all of us who claim to be with the movement, not with the movement. All of us who claim to say that, who claim to be for liberation, they not for liberation. Everybody who say Assalamu alaikum is not a Muslim. Everybody that wear a bow tie or a headpiece or give you the greetings or act righteous is not there for that particular purpose. So we have to be on guard. We have to walk our posts in a perfect manner, keeping always on the alert. We always have to be making sure that we keep our eyes within a view of all temple property. Huh? You understand what I'm saying, family? General orders in full effect. See? And then allow no one to make a nuisance on your post. Once you establish your post, you don't allow nobody to make no nuisance on your post. So once you get rooted firmly in the knowledge and the wisdom and the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, under the leadership of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, you don't allow people to come and make mischief on your post, which means they can't come and tell lies. They can't come and spell and spew out propaganda that you're not going to come and have a response of truth to. So just know that they always got some Negro somewhere who's willing to be paid. A Negro who's willing to be paid. That movie, I can't think of the name of the movie right now, but it had the two black people in it, and they killed the police officer. I can't think of the name of the movie, y'all. Y'all let me know what's the name of that movie. Shout out to New York Queens in the building. Queen. It's not called Bonnie and Clyde. What's the name of the movie? Oh my gosh, I can't think of the name of the movie, y'all. Hold on, now I gotta research it. Oh man, what is the name of the movie? Oh, it's right on the top of my tongue. Oh, it's right on the top of my tongue. What is the name of the movie? What is the name of the movie? What is the name of it? Oh my gosh. It is called Queen something. Queen and Slim. Boy. Queen and Slim. Okay. So y'all remember in Queen and Slim, it was the Negro who was bought and sold out against Queen and Slim. Because remember, they were supposed to be catching the plane to actually leave the country, and they met up with dude who was supposed to put them in contact with the pilot, and they had got all the way to the airstrip. Look at that. They got all the way to the airstrip, and then that's when the police knew to make their move, because my mans who was down for the cause, he had appreciated what they was doing. He claimed he didn't believe that they was guilty of what they was saying they was guilty of. Remember, he was smoking weed. He was trying to be down. He was doing all that. Whole time he working for the police. Whole time he working for the feds. Whole time. He's been sent. He's been sent to infiltrate the situation. In that case, it wasn't an organization, but he infiltrated their situation and ultimately brought them down. So we always have to be aware of that type of behavior. Always got to be aware. Now, moving on. The Jewish influence behind police attacks against Muslims and black people in general would become even more an issue throughout the decades. Attacks against the black Muslims were compounded with ongoing disinformation campaigns against them, which became highlighted in 1959 when a television expose titled "The Hate That Hate Produced" aired several segments that attempted to portray the Nation of Islam as a hate-filled movement that needs to be dealt with before things get out of hand. See, the media, ooh boy, the media is the tool in which the enemy uses to sway the minds and go after the hearts and the minds of the people. That's the media. So they manipulate information. They put out propaganda that's going to trigger your mind to think a certain type of way. We are literally watching this play out with Diddy. We watched this play out with Michael Jackson. We watched this play out. Hold up. We watched it play out with America's Dad. Y'all see it? Bill Cosby. We watched it play out many times where the media swayed the hearts and the minds of a person who you looked up to, a person who inspired you, motivated you, a person who in your mind was a good person and had provided something positive to the community. And they turned you against that person. And they made you believe and think that person was evil and wicked. This is the power of the media. So Brother Malcolm X said that the media can make the innocent look guilty and the guilty look innocent. That's real talk. That's real. So, in the expose titled "The Hate That Hate Produced," it attempted to portray the Nation of Islam as a hate-filled movement that needs to be dealt with before things get out of hand. Continuing to talk about the media, this is what they did with Malcolm X films, starting in 1993, I believe, with Spike Lee in his film of Malcolm X that was funded by Warner Brothers. Hold up. It was funded by Warner Brothers. And then Spike went to other high-powered black entertainers in the business to also get funding for the filming of that movie, all in effort to portray the Nation of Islam as the ones who murdered Brother Minister Malcolm X. So the power of the media is real. The power of the media is real. Shout out to Ann Payne's in the building. Shout out to Brother Eric in the building. Shout out to James Jabril in the building. That's New York, Queens. Appreciate you, family. If you're just coming in, make sure that you are liking and subscribing. If you're on YouTube watching, if you're watching from Facebook, make sure you share. Instagram, shout out to you. Make sure that you go ahead and do what you can do by just making sure that you engage via the comment section. Shout out to Twitter. Make sure that you retweet. But we are talking about the war against Islam and exposing the war against Islam. I'm your host, Brother King Cam. This is Shifting the Culture Podcast. Appreciate you for tuning in. Let's keep rolling. So the power of the media. The power of the media is a very, very, very powerful thing. And that's why it's so important that those who have platforms are educated with their platforms, because they don't know how many people they're reaching, how many people they're influencing, how many people, how many minds they're shaping with their content, with their commentary. So this is the power of the media, and this is what we have to be cognizant of. We have to understand that those who fall up under your voice are going to move the way that you move. So it's important, especially if you are giving social commentary, if you are talking about events in the community, if you're talking about people who have influence, then you have to make sure that you come with the actual facts. That's why the lessons say that the Nation of Islam is all wise. All wise, meaning what? You don't speak before you gather all the information. We should adopt this mindset. Okay? So now, on this media piece, it's going to get further into it. It says, subsequently, the FBI forwarded stories to newspapers claiming that Master Fard Muhammad was Wallace Dodd Ford, a Turkish-born Nazi agent who worked for Hitler in World War II. Stop right there. Now, when you get into the Nation of Islam and the history of the Nation of Islam, and everybody on social media who wants to create spaces and rooms around the Nation of Islam and the foundational principles, when they want to get into Master Fard Muhammad, the common thing that's brought up is this Wallace Dodd Ford character. And they try to say that Wallace Dodd was Master Fard Muhammad, who, as in this book, is explained to be a Turkish-born Nazi agent who worked for Hitler in World War II. Again, media painting a picture. I want you to understand what's happening. Media painting a picture against the Nation of Islam. Now, obviously, anybody who's a Nazi, anybody who's working for Hitler is automatically going to put you at odds with anybody that's Jewish. Naturally, that's going to put you at odds with them. So, you got to be careful and look at what's going on. So, this is what they try to say. And then it says, a Turkish-born Nazi agent who worked for Hitler in World War II, an outright lie that was spread suggesting that the Nation of Islam founder was a criminal white man. On July 28th, 1963, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner ran similar stories claiming that Master Fard Muhammad was a dope peddler and bootlegger from New Zealand. Though Master Fard Muhammad's whole movement took blacks away from drugs and alcohol, those interested in defaming Muslims obviously had little regard for the implausibility of their claims as long as they could turn the public against the Muslims. As long as they could turn the public against the Muslims, they was all right. They was all right. Long as you could turn the public against the Muslims, then this was the goal. So it says that these attempts to discredit the Muslims caused many in the public to sway, but the Honorable Elijah Muhammad publicly debunked their propaganda by proving that Wallace Dodd had no relation to Master Fard Muhammad. On July 29th, 1963, Elijah Muhammad sent a group of his followers to the Hearst newspaper office with a $100,000 check, offering to pay all expenses if they could bring this Dodd fellow to publicly debate him concerning any connection to Master Fard Muhammad. The offer was also publicized In the August 16, 1963 edition of the Muhammad Speaks newspaper entitled Beware of Phony Claims. Of course, none of the press or government agencies dared to take Muhammad's offer. The FBI presented several conflicting reports about Master Fard Muhammad and the Nation of Islam that was shared with the press in order to destroy the credibility of the group. Some reports claim he was Afghani and suffered from diabetes, and others claim he was a British and New Zealand descent. Apparently, their objective was to sway the public against the Nation of Islam, regardless to which lie influenced them to do so. So, Dr. Wesley has went in depth on Master Fard Muhammad, the background, his origin, his father, Alfonso, and his family, so that you're able to go and find the information on Master Fard Muhammad if you would like. It's available in the Book of God. And I think Dr. Wesley got another publication around Master Fard Muhammad as well. And there are other brothers in the Nation of Islam too who have information on Master Fard Muhammad. Student Minister Willie Muhammad out of New Orleans is another one of those brothers. So if you want the real information, you can get it. Or you can continue to lean on what the FBI put into place about this Wallace Dodd Ford character. The choice is yours. But the goal of the media is to destroy the credibility of the organization. That's their goal. So the espionage, arrests, and propaganda against the Nation of Islam have also been accompanied with outright violent attacks, as in the 1934 courtroom incident that took place after the Muslims' temple meeting place was raided in Detroit. The malicious lies and slander perpetrated against the Nation of Islam has been used to justify physical attacks. On May 5th, 1962, in LA, police attacked the unarmed Muslims, killing Ronald X. Stokes and injuring others. In 1965, after Malcolm X's defection from the movement, his home was mysteriously firebombed, followed by the Nation of Islam Mosque in New York. As the national representative of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Minister Louis Farrakhan restored the believing community and took the Nation of Islam to new heights by exponentially increasing its membership nationally, particularly in New York. Several thriving black-owned businesses grew under his tutelage, and several other temples and mosques were developed under his ministry. The United States of Islam in New York rendered unprecedented successes, causing the FBI to garner more surveillance toward Muhammad's top minister. The FBI had already worked to isolate Malcolm X from his source of wisdom and power, which they were successful in doing by instigating conflicts and exacerbating tensions within the temple. The government was also directly involved in the orchestration of Malcolm's assassination, as his bodyguard Gene Roberts was actually an undercover informant working covertly through the New York Police Department. It was Roberts who posed as a member of Malcolm's newly found organization of Afro-American Unity. And it was he who gave mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to Malcolm after he was shot down in the Jewish-owned Audubon Ballroom on February 21st, 1965. Administering such a procedure to a man with bullet wounds helped speed up the process of Malcolm's death. It is also awfully suspicious how Jews who consider Malcolm X the leading black anti-Semite were somehow accommodating him in their custodial facility during this assassination. So I hope y'all are following along, because this is giving us an idea into the mind of those who are in the media, and their job is to put out propaganda. I often ask myself, what do people get off by creating platforms on social media that just talk about everybody else's business? I literally seen where a sister that got a big podcast And all she do is gossip on the podcast. And it's really, amazing to me because when you read the Holy Quran and it shuns gossiping, backbiting, and slack talk against your fellow believer, then, it's kind of like, it's like, why do we have to feed on such filth? Because it's getting people paid. It's podcasts that exist that solely talk about gossip that's getting people paid. All right? So it says, though the FBI boastfully takes credit for the assassination of Malcolm X in their internal memo, their propagandists steered public opinion into believing the Nation of Islam was responsible. A lie that has been repeated so often that many still negate all facts and sense of reason to accept it. Absolutely, man. It's a hell of a thing that has been done to us where we would really love our enemy so much so that we would lay our life on the line for them. And sadly, they understand that dynamic. It's getting a lot weaker. The grip that they had on us in the 30s, they don't have on us today. The grip that they had in the 30s don't exist today. However, still some of us who are real sweet to them. So, and again, it's not about being a mean person or anything like that. It's just about knowing who and what you're dealing with. We know Karens exist. We know that. So, and we know others exist as well. So we just have to be watchful. We have to be careful. So it says that as Minister Louis Farrakhan surmounted unprecedented work to secure Black lives in Harlem, the New York Police Department raided the Nation of Islam Mosque, where unarmed believers, including children, were present on April 14, 1972. The raid was intended to be a setup and kill and injure Muslims because NYPD officers, were responding to a fake emergency call. When they raided the mosque with their weapons, fierce retaliation from the unarmed Muslims, leaving some of their officers injured, and one, Philip Cardillo, dead. The event became known as the 1972 Harlem Mosque incident. So now you have the police coming into the mosque. Literally coming into the mosque, weapons drawn, women and children, and they're not disturbing nobody. And NYPD come up in the mosque. So you know they got to get dealt with. You know that's what we got to do. So this break down the incident, then we're going to close on this. The incident alarmed the Black community of Harlem, who came out to support the Muslims. By that time, the other officers were practically pleading to get out alive. Police managed to arrest some of the believers, including Brother Louis 17X Dupree. It was Minister Farrakhan who summoned the crowd and the NYPD, warning them to release innocent brothers, or else. Like the minister said, there always got to be or else. Because of the wrongdoings of the police, the minister ordered for all white police officers to get out of Harlem and allow more trustworthy Black officers to patrol the area. Having the masses of the people on your side, the city complied to the noble request. As Minister Farrakhan as a national representative of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam, Farrakhan gave a press conference rebuking the NYPD for their wrongdoing, followed by stern words of guidance and warnings, witnessing that the influence that Farrakhan demonstrated prompted government intelligence. Already feuding with Blacks were already feuding with white policemen in Harlem several months prior. So you already had white policemen who were already doing things that they had no business doing. So this is what's leading up to it. You see, they tried to run up in the mosque two or twice. We read about the first one that has happened in Detroit, and then the other one that took place over here in Chicago. President Richard Nixon and FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover launched a secret plan in New York in response to the assassinations of police officers. The two were recorded on a phone conversation discovering in 1971. The government has planned the murder of Minister Farrakhan and the Muslims who stand with him to establish the truth revealed to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Once agencies had already been planning the dismemberment of the Nation of Islam, even before the departure of his leader, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The FBI memo dated January 7th, 1969, noted, "We should plan how to seek the philosophy of the Nation of Islam to be one of the most strictly religious and self-orientation, deleting the race hatred and separate nationhood aspects." So that's real talk. Once you get into a more consistent study of it, then you'll understand what was mentioned at the end when it says deleting the race hatred and separate nationhood aspects. Definitely should separate nationhood aspects from just your average person who comes and wants to learn more, but it's other things that have to make sure that's in place. So you can't, once you get a man, it's not about moving them around like that. Okay, so now, but this is just internally within the Nation of Islam. As you can see, these people was not playing. I don't know if they went with they couldn't go with Homeboy because, but anyway, so hatred and separation, nationhood aspects. So, this is important. We should plan to change the philosophy of the Nation of Islam to one of the strictly religious and self-improvement organizations, deleting the race hatred and separate nationhood aspects. They wanted to change the philosophy of the Nation of Islam. They really wanted to do that. They have it written down. They wanted to change the philosophy. Wow, that's powerful. It's powerful for these people to say that they wanted to do that. And despite being targeted by the world superpower for decades, the Nation of Islam shocked the world by reforming and building a society of dignified black people under the leadership of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, a man who was not considered charismatic by many, but a man who claims to have been taught directly by Allah, God, in person. Every success of the Nation of Islam can be attributed to this foundational principle. All praise is due to Allah. So even the success of the Nation of Islam can be attributed to this foundational principle. So this is really good reading. I hope you enjoyed some of what was shared here tonight in exposing the war in Islam, because you able to see a lot of hidden hands. We're not going to talk about them no more, but when you get an opportunity to go back and watch it again, you'll see where we talked about these individuals, swimming and doing things like that. So, again, don't be conjuring up your own ideas, family. We're talking about what exactly was written on the paper. And, when you go back and you do the history, because it's not like we don't know that people going to say, oh, well, how he do that? Or how he do that? So, that's just real. But anyway, so when it comes to us and making sure that we are not hiding our light in the bushel basket, we're not clutching, the pearls, women, but we're going out in the highways and the byways, invoking our people to change, because they know a hustler from a mile away. So if that's what you're doing, you're gonna get called out. It's not the time to do that. So every success in the Nation of Islam can be attributed to this foundational principle. So, we got to stand on that point number 12. You got to stand on that point number 12, okay? Got to make it make sense. All right? So, again, Nation of Islam has made progress even though, all this stuff is happening. Again, the FBI admitted the fact that they were stirring up controversy against the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So, it says that the ability to unify and magnify the masses of downtrodden blacks were fearless, independent thinking, business-minded citizens who, citizen-minded innocents, would considered a miracle by most mothers. Let me see. Okay, so the ability to unify and magnify the masses of downtrodden blacks into fearless, independent thinking, business-minded citizens would be considered a miracle by most standards. But those in authority approached the Nation of Islam leadership much the same way the biblical leaders approached Jesus' good word, with malice and intention. Both the malice and the intention is not good. Hold on, make sure I don't lose my place now. Would not be a same in authority. It happened. The Nation of Islam got to it says leadership. Like the Nation of Islam leadership, much the same of the Bible or biblical leaders approach. Jesus walks in with his malice and hatred. Both the Bible and Holy Quran give a prophetic scripture of Jesus being plotted against by the religious and political leaders. Particularly those Jews who said they were Jews, and then they picked them and said, not Jews. So, got to figure out who's who and what's what nowadays. So you can just show up with the FOI uniform and the brother go ahead and pat you on the back. Lo and behold, that's a tester or something. So we just got to be careful when we let people in our house, Got to make sure they uphold the same standard. You don't want to walk around your house with no dirty shoes on, no dirty socks on, especially if you lay on the floor. So, but again, being able to unify the masses of our people, and how both the Bible and the Quran gave a prophetic picture of Jesus being plotted against by the political and religious leaders, particularly those Jews whom Jesus called the synagogue of Satan. So it's a lot going on in these scriptures that's coming to life right now. Got a lot that's in these scriptures that's coming to life right now. All right? Coming to life right now. So I'm going to just go ahead and put a pin in it right there, family, because there's so much that we can get into. But this exposing the war against Islam is extremely pivotal in understanding what's taking place today, what's happening against the Nation of Islam. Why do you see us being attacked on these platforms? Because now it's moving to social media, and you're seeing what Muslims and the channels for the believers are being taken down off YouTube. Well, who's in charge of that? Who's in charge of looking at YouTube and seeing the minister on YouTube and the accounts that associate with putting these videos out? Why are you so upset about that? Especially if we paying you. Boy, these people. So that's all I have tonight, family. I appreciate everybody that came through. Make sure that you hit the comment section. Let me know what city and state that you tuned in from. Also. What's the also? Make sure you do that. Okay, yeah. Oh, and then also make sure that you text the word STC podcast to 888-294-2793. Again, that number is 294. So text the word Brett, and that's BRETT So that's where we at with that. Okay. And that's it. That's all I have, family. So I appreciate everybody for coming through. Like I said, make sure you come through in that fly gear, because we ready to step out. When you come to the Shift in the Culture podcast, it's a step out. So make sure you come through with that flyness, right? But also come with wisdom, come with notepad, able to take some notes. Please, when you want to, make sure you're taking notes on Thursdays, family. That you don't want to miss. You want to make sure you're taking notes when it comes to these Thursday theme episodes. You want to make sure that you're tapped in. All right, that's what you want to make sure you do. So, man, let me know what city and state you're tapped in at in the comment section, family. I'm gonna go back and check them out. We appreciate this. It's an international platform, so we got people tuning in to this from all over the world. So we want to make sure that we increasing in value and impact. We'll be back on Saturday now. We done move the situation. Shifting the Culture podcast from just 1 day a week to 3 times a week. So we'll be back this Saturday. We got a special guest. Her name is Sister Naja. She's going to be coming, and she's going to be talking to us about the tech industry. She's going to be talking to us about how she made her transition. And for those who are looking to transition out of their current job model and their role, and they want to get something remote, they want to get something new, they want to get paid a higher salary, then you don't want to miss this upcoming Saturday. All right, so I will be putting the information out on my YouTube page, on my Instagram page. So check the stories over there, family. But you definitely want to make sure that you tapped in. All right, so that's it for me. I'm not gonna belabor the point no longer. May Allah continue to bless you all with the light of understanding. I'll leave you in the greeting words of peace. Assalamu alaikum.